Hello everyone, welcome to a special Hobbyton update. This is the storyteller and his crew. So I'm going to start off with the place where they are. They're in a cave, not necessarily on the outskirts of town, but there's a small hill, and they have a decent view of the town. It's more or less a small entrance to a cave that's leads to a big underground area that they don't know about. They just know of a little cave. They haven't actually explored into it to see the glorious spacing and stuff that it holds. The goblins and crew are trying to save up for additional outpost gear like guns, telescopes, a watchtower, vehicles, stuff like that. And the storyteller is not. He has a bed inside, and he wants more, so he can choose where to sleep. He wants cool, useful things that he does get. He hides in there so no one else can use. There's a giant fire pit outside for when they tell the stories, to add dramatic feel to them. There's no real place for anyone else to sleep other than him, which is more or less going with the orc storyline. Orcs don't really care about anything smaller or weaker than them in any way. Squigs are used as kind of like dogs in the battlefield role. They'll stay with you and then attack someone that comes close, watch your back for you. The smaller ones are used like food. They can hold stuff. You just put stuff in them and tie them up, and you're good to go. Goblins tend not to have any love. They also follow the big ones are in charge kind of thing. So that's kind of how that is. And the storyteller only wants to tell stories. He doesn't care about the outpost, and where they are isn't even that good of a place for an outpost. But that's where they chose because they had a good place for a fire pit. So now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about each character. First up, we have the storyteller. That's D-A for da, story, and tella, T-E-L-L-A. Just orcified. He was kicked out of his tribe for telling stories of orc defeat, which is a big no-no. Orcs can never lose. They just beat everyone and then get bigger. He, of course, tells everyone that he beat all of them up, and that was the story. The end. He wears a really powerful cloak that he stole off his war boss after an entire army finally killed him to get it, and then he just came in and took it. It makes him almost invulnerable while he wears it, which is really good for a war boss to have, because he can walk through entire armies by himself. But of course, he just wants to tell stories, so it's kind of waste. Yeah, just makes it useless. Good for him, but not for anyone else. Has a magical rock weapon, which is a little dagger. Used for illuminating his path or giving light when his companions gather around for a story. So if they're not by the campfire, he can use that to shed light. Just throws it on the ground and it lights up, so he can get that really spooky light, like a flashlight. He tells his stories of battle or narratives, battle reports for us, even if there wasn't one. He just tells stories for the fun of it. He leaves pages of his stories all over the place, so he can just pick up random ones and start telling new stories. So could start off with Tyranids fighting orcs, and then pick up a page and it's about orcs beating marines, and it doesn't make much sense. He elaborates or embellishes all of his stories, because it's what orcs do, especially when they tell stories. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a background into him. Now we'll go into Little Tay. See if he'll go in focus. I'm going to repaint him, fix him up, finish his gun. Actually, going back to Storyteller, this is a Warhammer Fantasy by Games Workshop Shaman for the Orcs and Goblins. This model is completely unknown to me. It was in someone's bits box. I saw it. It looked cool. So I took it. Well, I traded for it. I didn't steal it. It was legitimate. So Little Tay, named after another storyteller from islands far away. A human forced to wear goblin clothing and to paint his skin green, which will be shown. Carries an armor-piercing Gatling explosive round machine gun, which is what that's going to be. Just to make up for his small size, he's going to be the one that carries this team. And he's in charge of collecting and sorting all of the storyteller's stories. So basically, he just picks up pages, puts them in a pile, so the storyteller can tell new stories. He's the storyteller's apprentice. So one day he hopes to tell stories of his own. So that's Little Tay. Then we have J and J. These are, you can see the brand on their base, kind of. These are a Confrontation, a company that went out of business a while back, but they made really amazing models. So that's the ninjas in a kicking pose, and they have swords. So one of them is spelled J-A-Y and the other is spelled J-A-I. Because the war boss names everyone, he doesn't really care what their original name is. He just picks whatever he likes and that's what he calls you. And if you don't answer, he probably hits you. That's kind of how orcs and goblins work. So they always dreamt of being ninjas. That was their lifelong goal in life. And one day when they were completing a little mini quest, they found some dead ninjas and stole their clothes, thus becoming ninjas themselves. They use swords that aren't very sharp. They're not very good at almost anything. They're barely even swords. They can easily be replaced with other goblins waiting to hear the storyteller's stories and probably just given their gear. They're not actually related in any way, not even their names, not that anyone cares. So, those are the goblins. Then we have the cast squig, which I have to green stuff his tongue and bottom lip. It's really hard to pick up. He does have more details. There we go. So this is a GW special character for the Orcs and Goblins for Warhammer Fantasy. A large squig that the storyteller has had for years. He was once a pet until he got too big to hold, and then he became a companion. That's also pretty much how orcs work. He's kept around mostly in case they need or want to have a really big feast, because they eat squigs. It's kind of what they do. He's going to have tribal tattoos when he's finished modeled, that were drawn by marker. So basically, while he was sleeping, the storyteller and everyone else grabbed permanent marker and drew all over him. And they told him, and he believed it, that it was from their gods. Just he woke up one morning and had markings. It meant something, so basically they did it so that he would listen. They told him he was entrusted by the gods of Gork and Mork to look after them and do as they say. And when he did, he got tribal markings, which meant he was bigger and stronger, and he believed it. He likes to bounce around, making stealth missions almost impossible. He would make a really good decoy if anyone in the group was smart enough to think of it. or if anyone that did think of it, would he be able to tell the storyteller and he would listen to them, because he tends not to listen to anybody. Okay, so for the week, they went into Hobbyton. The quest was a week in Hobbyton. The mission was 2 parts. Mission A, to tell stories to the children, and part B is help with odd, bad jobs no one else wants to do. So we have the storyteller's story of how the day went. So, as the storyteller entered the town, the sun rose up behind him, as if he brought it with him. His ungrateful companions fled when they heard his mighty voice, unworthy to be in his mighty presence. All of the children in the town ran to him like presents on Christmas morning. As he told his stories, the crowds cheered and cried with laughter. It was a good day for storytelling. And it only got better as the week went by. The crowds got bigger and the stories got better. So that's what happened with the storyteller. So what really happened, told by one of these 4, we won't mention who. The truth, spelled T-R-O-U-T-H, da truth. The sun was up, the storyteller slept in once again. When they got to the town, the storyteller yelled at his companions to go find work so he could buy stuff. Of course, all the good jobs had been taken early in the morning, so only the bad jobs were left. All of the children ran from him in horror as he chased them around trying to tell them his stories. Any unfortunate enough to be cornered had to listen to him and smell his breath for a couple of minutes until he saw something shiny or someone else to talk to. Some people ran, some cried, but most just ignored him. It was a bad day for storytelling, and it only got worse as the week went by. The groups of guards got bigger as the stories got shorter, but no one could stop his stories. They decided, so that's the end of the truth. They decided to try and pay him to leave, so that's why he was able to earn what he earned. And the rest earned their pay doing some of the really bad work. Cleaning chamber pots, gardening, taking animals bigger than they are for walks, anything in the town that people didn't have time for or just really didn't want to do. And they had to do it because the storyteller told them to. So in total, they earned 427 Warboss Tay-Bucks. In a separate video, I will plan out what I'm going to do with those. I think I only have one more person to gear up and train, so that will be done for sure. And they're going to get something nice for their cave. So, see you in the next video.